In this class, we will understand pass by value in C. What it means is, while calling the functions, we can pass the values. So how the values can be passed through the calling function, that we will try to understand in this class. So coming to our function declaration, so as we are passing values within the calling function, we have to mention the data types of those values that are being passed in the function declaration. And it is mandatory to mention the data types of those values that are being passed in the calling function within the function declaration or function prototyping. So these declarations are important because the compiler need to understand the values that are being passed in the calling function. So that is why in the prototyping we have to mention these data types. And coming to this main function, so the first we are having three variables. We declared three variables, a, b, c. A is equal to 2 and b is equal to 3, and the value c is used to store the summation of a and b. So the function, so let's see that. So here c is equal to a of a comma b. So this is how we can pass the functions. We can pass the values while calling the function. So whenever we call this function, whenever these statements get executed, so this function gets called. So what happens is this function gets called and the values of a and b will get stored in the variables called x and y, and these variables which are being mentioned in the definition of the function are called as parameters or placeholders. So these are what we call it as, so the values within the calling function are called as arguments or actual values, and the values that are defined in the function definition, that are declared in the function definition, are called as parameters or placeholders. Means these are the placeholders which are waiting for the actual values to get stored whenever the function call is made. So that is the reason why they are called as parameters or placeholders. Okay. So the value, what happens is whenever this function call is made, the value of a will get stored in x, which is 2, and the value of b will get stored in the variable y. So because these are the placeholders. Now within this function, so what is this, the use of these parameters is, so we will try to understand that the difference between actual values and parameters by the end of this class. Now within this function definition, I have created a variable called z, and the value of z is equal to x plus y. So the summation is being done here, means the values of a and b which are being passed will get summed up here, and that value, the summation will get stored in z, so which is the value 5. And this function is going to return an integer, and the value that is being returned is z. Now what happens is this value z, the value of z will be returned back to the calling function, and the value of z, which is 5, now will get stored within C. Now the next statement of this main function will get executed, which is going to print the value of C, and after that it is going to return 0, which is the return value of this main function, and it is of type integer. Okay, so now with this we will complete the complete execution. The summation is done, the execution of this entire function will be completed. Now we will try to understand the difference between actual values, arguments and parameters. So it is very important to understand. So what it actually means is, so whenever a function call is made, the values, and if within the definition, if we change the values of these parameters or placeholders, so the change in the parameters or placeholders does not have an effect on the actual values. The actual values will always remain as 2 and 3. So because of this, in our case, the actual values are 2 and 3. There will, as we change, for example, let's assume that I changed the value of x is equal to 10 within this definition. Now the 2 has been changed from the value of x has been changed from 2 to 10. Now all you need to understand is, within this function definition, whatever the changes that are being made on these parameters, which are photocopies of the values a and b, means actual values, they are just photocopies. Okay, so the change will not get affected. So the actual values will not get affected. So just keep this point in time, this point in mind. This point is very, very important to understand. Okay, so that is the difference between the arguments and parameters. And this is how we can pass the values while calling the function. Okay, so that's it for this video. In the next class, we will come up with a lab experiment where we are going to cover, the lab experiment is going to cover all the concepts that we have seen so far based upon the concepts of functions. So that's it for this video. See you in the next class.